Welcome to another edition of Resilient Living Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and this is a show dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. Today's part 3, episode 12, and this is an extension of RV living, stationary RV living full-time. Go check out episode 1, part 1. Part 2, and this is part 3, so you can get caught up on it. I got a lot of good stuff with you. We're going to jump just right back into it. We're going to talk about tankless water heaters next. Now, we were talking a lot about RV living and how everything's not really made to live in full time. So what I would recommend to you guys is if you don't have the money, again, just use your hot water tank until it gives out. And when it does, you can basically bypass or pay to have the lines bypassed from your actual water heater mechanism and get yourself a tankless. These things are like $125, some of them. There's some a little more expensive. And here's what's nice about them. These instant water makers is exactly what it says. Water goes in through an intake and it heats up instantly. And whenever you turn on the water, it fires up. Whereas your water tank is constantly having to be heated. It gets hot, it gets cold, it gets hot, it gets cold. And that's kind of what causes you to spend a lot more money on propane and things like that. So that's what's really nice, and these things can be disconnected relatively quick. They're very cheap. Literally, you can make an outdoor shower if you wanted to and just hook up a hose to the end of it, and the out part is just a wand, a shower wand. And they're automatic. It takes a little DC battery, sometimes two, and it has a sensor. You don't have to do anything but flip a switch. Right when you turn the water on, boom, it kicks on. Really nice. I'm going to give you guys a tip for the do-it-yourselfers. You can actually bypass the water that comes, that you can rig it this way, where the water goes into your tankless water heater, and then it goes from the output into your water heater, so that it has to fill up that water heater first and spit out all the cold water. And as you're using it, you're going to have probably about a good 5 or 7 gallons of hot water. So if you really want to take a hot shower or something for an extended period of time, it's going to give you that much more water to play with. Now it is instant, so it's just going to keep heating it up. Regardless, you can take a long shower. But what I like about this is, say you need to do dishes or wash your hands, you actually preheated some water that's slowly cooling down, and you can reuse that later on. So I thought that was a cool tip to show you guys. Okay, a word about freezers. I mentioned in part 1 or part 2, I can't remember. Now in the freezers, we don't want to use our indoor freezer may die or something. We want to use the chest freezers. And you want to get the cheap chest freezers and make sure you check that they're able to be used in a garage. Now some of them say you can't use them outside, but if they're made for a garage, they'll actually handle. They don't have like an intake pipe. That's what you got to look for. If it has a grill that needs to suck air in, then you don't want that one. It won't work for you. Trust me, I learned from experience the hard way. Now you're going to see some of the cheaper outdoor freezers, the chest freezers, that has a little opening, but that's just to let the heat out. It actually has a lot less, the compressor and stuff like that's different, so make sure you check that out. Flooding areas and flooding issues. I learned this one, and I'm still learning. My area is the flood point of the entire RV park. I get like 6 inches of water in my area, so when you're going to pick yourself a spot and you're going to live there full time, try to find yourself a spot that's not the low point. I had to put my refrigerator, freezers, and everything, my outdoor stuff, all on cinder blocks and raise them up about 6 inches up high, because everything would just flood, and I got to use a sump pump to suck all that water out every year when there's a big storm. So word of caution. Sun exposure. This is a good one to bring up in orientation. Now I live, I would say, on the east facing, because the sun rises and actually shines on my place. This is really nice in the summertime. In the winter, it kind of warms me up, but at the hotter part of the day, I've got these trees behind me, and when the sun starts going over, and it's about 3, 4 o'clock, and it's really hitting, my neighbors across the street, they're getting hit by that sun. Remember we talked about how thin the walls are? It'll heat your little metal box up relatively fast. So you might want to consider, if you live in a hot area, to actually be on the east-facing area instead of the west. Now, if you're growing food, you're growing vegetables, which I do, I don't have the sun exposures that my neighbors do, so it's a give or take. Definitely make sure you plan your orientation correctly if you can. Versatility of a shed is next. Now, this is really nice because we did talk about, my phone's acting up here and I'm trying to drive at the same time. A versatility of a shed is really nice because you need privacy. I took mine, first of all, find out if you can build one there. And I'm talking about one of those like Home Depot Lowe's ones, right? I already had one that was built there. And basically what I did is I insulated the whole entire thing with recycled jeans. I used some soundboard to cover that up on the inside walls. And then I also used cheap Office Space carpet. And I did the ceiling and I did everything. What it does is it gives a very insulated place to really hang out. That's where I used to do my earlier show. I have a show called Up and In It. And that's where I would do my shows in there, especially in the summer. It was nice and cool. And it's soundproof, so I don't have to worry about being loud. I'm also a musician, so I built it extra thick, so you could play loud guitar in there, and especially in an RV park, and not bother anybody. The other thing is when we want to cry and scream because you're losing your mind. I'm just kidding. No, it's a place where you can actually have some privacy, and it's nice and cool. Again, I put myself up one of those mosquito nets, put a couch in there, and now it's my oldest daughter's room. She took over, and I really miss it. But yeah, just if you need a place to get away, it's kind of nice when you're living in tight tight living situations. Because face it, people, living in an RV is like living in a hallway. If you just need a quiet place to read or take a nap, it's always nice to have that one in there. I've got internet in there. I got a little TV where you can watch Netflix and stuff like that. Just really cool, a little fan. So consider versatility of a shed. You can also store a lot of stuff in there too, which is nice. Next is synthetic grass. And I like synthetic. I don't really like plastic very much. I'm not like I said, I like to do stuff that's good for the planet, but we're living on gravel. Some places there's dirt. All they usually do is put yourself a little concrete pad so you can put a picnic table on it. And you go spend, $80, whatever, on a really nice big carpet, and all it's going to do is get thrashed. I would recommend, if you're living on gravel like I am, go spend probably about $600 or so. You can get yourself a 12 by 18 foot, cover your whole area with the synthetic grass, and it gives a really nice area. Buy the soft one though, make sure it's soft, because the rugged ones literally just like pinches your skin. They really suck. I don't like them. I haven't bought one yet, but that's what I'm going to do. And line the whole place up, and it makes the place look nice and gives you a comfortable feel, keeps the dirt and the sand and stuff out of your home. So definitely would recommend doing something like that. Having a pond is on my next notes here. A pond is really nice because I live next to like a freeway, so it drowns out the sound. I actually turned mine into a mini aquaponic system where I'm growing food with and I got some goldfish in there. So basically my mint plants, they purify the water, so I don't need filtration in there. And they purify it and oxygenate the water for the fish. And the fish's poo and stuff like that actually gives fertilizer to the plant, so it's a symbiotic relationship. I've grown kale in it and everything, right with the fish, not separate or anything else. But you can literally suck water out of like some PVC pipes, have it run to some PVC pipes and actually do some nutrient film where you're actually growing lettuces and stuff like that. So the water from the pond will go through and then just return through. It's just a complete cycle. Really cool stuff, especially if you're living in small spaces. Now it gives ambiance. It gives there's extra water in case the power, an emergency or something like that. But it's really nice seeing the fish swim around. It's little pets, or a little. We've named them. One of them's named is Bubbles. Comes up and always makes bubbles and stuff like that. So consider getting yourself one. They have really cool lights you can put in them. So at nighttime, very pleasant. RV stabilization and why. We were talking about in the early episode about hooking up the drain pipes and stuff like that. Well, these things have these little jacks that are built in, and you basically take this little screwdriver thing and they come down and they're on all four corners. Well, what happens is if you're in gravel or dirt and you're walking around all the time, what happens starts pressing into the ground and makes indentures. So you got to keep going in there and tightening these things up. I recommend that you get yourself some footings, like some cinder blocks or something like that. But even then, those are going to get buried inside the mud, especially when it's raining. And you're going to have to keep cinching the jacks that come down, the stabilizer bars. What I like to do is they have some mobile home stabilizer tripods. So it's just like a tripod, and then it has like a little screw that comes out with a little plate, and you can screw this thing up. And I would imagine, I recommend that you put one every 5 feet. So you already have some pre-built on every four corners. Put these about every 5 feet, and again under some cinder blocks, and keep those things nice and tight. And sooner or later, what will happen? It won't feel like you're living on a boat, because somebody in the middle of the night goes to go to the restroom, and the whole trailer starts shaking. It feels like an earthquake. It wakes me up. Next, I want to move on privacy issues. We're butt up to each other. But guys, really, I do home repairs on homes. I run a construction company. Some of these homes, the bathroom and the kitchen windows are like 10 feet apart. I'm about 18 feet is my next neighbor. But what I did is I invented a biodegradable container gardening system that's fully suspended, and that's what goes in between my neighbor's their window and my entire yard space. Now the other neighbor, they have to look at my side of my trailer. So I use that as privacy. Get yourself some plants or something. I built a big giant canopy. I don't know if I have that here on my notes. Let me look real quick, and I'll go into that next if I didn't. Okay, we didn't put that on there. We'll talk about that. So yeah, they have these really cool, like you can hang plants if you have a canopy, like ferns and things like that. Put some automatic drip irrigation. You got your pond, you got your plants, and it kind of gives it a good feeling, good mood. Now what they have too is these little, basically they look like shade tarps. And what they have is you can get these very large ones that shows like a sunset. Like you can see the picture, nobody can see through the thing, but it lets light through. So it'll look like you're watching a sunset in Arizona. Those things check them out, and you can just put that across the whole entire area. So next, what I want to talk about is my awning. I have an awning that is made out of galvanized pipe, very thick, 1.75 inches, I think, or 5/16 inches. I can't remember. It's a top rail basically for fencing. Went and bought myself at Canopy Parts. I'm not affiliated with anybody, but they basically have the corners and everything set up. So you just insert this pipe, you turn a screw, and it really tightens it in. And I have a 15 by 30 foot giant canopy, and it's held with weight by my suspended farm, my garden, which is probably about, I'd say 800 pounds, so mine ain't going anywhere. You'd have to figure out where you can secure it, but that would be nice where you can put all your privacy screens and things up. And what I like about this canopy that I built is just you can buy blue tarps, silver tarps, really nice looking ones. And mine's got like a white on the inside, so it looks really nice with a bunch of bungees holding it together. And this keeps my whole outdoor living area dry and the sun off me and things like that, and privacy. All right, so moving forward is security hacks. Now, some RV parks, you get some really strange people coming around sometimes, and like I said, they like to steal your propane tanks. We have people coming in, homeless people using the showers and stuff like that. I should talk about some of the pros and cons on this show. Again, I want to hear from what you guys want to hear about, but I don't have that on my notes. But basically, to combat it, even with weird neighbors or something, if you have one, I went and posted some signs that said this place is under surveillance, security camera alerts, and that usually keeps people out. I should definitely make a note of that, of the pros and cons. We'll do another show on this one. So moving forward, DIY cheap and easy pet fencing. What I did is I got myself some of that green plastic poultry fencing. It's plastic, it's 4 feet tall. Go get yourself some 1/2 inch, or probably better yet, 3/4 inch PVC pipe, Schedule 40, or the cheaper stuff. Get yourself some elbows and some tees, and basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna wrap this stuff around the 4 foot, cut them in 4 foot sections, and you're basically just gonna weave the pipes through them and connect them through the elbows. They're super light. I would recommend that in the middle of a 4 foot panel, you put yourself a T with a support, because they have a tendency to sag with the sun. But I've had my dog in these things. I've taken them with me on vacations. You can literally wrap up like 4 of these things, or 5 of them. Put some like a folding. How could you say this? Like a folding shelf. You basically zip tie 5 of them together, and they all fold into each other, and they weigh maybe about 5 pounds. And you can put this around your whole perimeter. That'll keep your kids and your pets inside, and pets out of your area from peeing and pooping in your area. And believe me, that is a thing. People let their dogs walk around. You'll find a pile of poop on your doorstep. Not very cool. So that's my hack. Next, I want to talk about dog peepee hack. What I did is I dug myself a pit about 1 foot deep, about 4 foot by about 6 foot wide, and I basically lined the whole inside of this thing with gravel. I filled up the dirt with into buckets, and I went and just dumped it out by the forest, and just let myself this big old pit. I filled it up with gravel, and then I lined the whole thing up with straw. You can go get that pet stuff, but it's very expensive. You can get yourself a bale of hay for super cheap, bag it all up, put it behind your shed, wherever you got, underneath your trailer, and just keep sprinkling this stuff over. Train your pet to go pee on this thing. Yes, you definitely don't want to leave your pets there to pee all the time on it. It will start stinking if you just let them pee every single day. You never take them out for walks. Take your dog out for walks. They need walks. They'll be happier, healthier, and they'll pee on other stuff besides yours. But when they are stuck there, they do need to pee. What's going to happen is it works like a French drain. They're going to go and pee in that thing and barely even fill it up. I mean, this is barely an amount of pee. It's going to go through the hay. The hay is going to soak up most of it. And it's very easy to see the poop on top of the hay because it's brown, it's beige, right? So you can go pick up with your pooper scooper. But you'll have to replace this hay about every month or so, every 2 weeks, depending on how much your dog's peeing in there. But the cool thing is get your water hose and just spray a bunch of water over this thing and rinse it all out. What'll happen is it'll fill up, it'll go down in the ground. One thing I forgot to tell you guys is go get yourself some shade cloth or weed cloth and put that as a barrier over the rocks. That way the hay doesn't decompose and start falling in there and clogging up the rocks. So literally you can rinse this thing out. Put some baking soda on top too if it gets really bad in the summertime. It was a really good thing to have around because your place can start stinking up really, really fast. Last thing I got on my notes here to end this series is no truck, no problem. If you don't have a truck, you want to buy say you're living in a car and you're like, I don't have a truck to go buy something and haul it to the RV park. Well, two things here. One, there's guys that will pay, you can pay like $450 to $550. They're all equipped like me. They'll go pick one up, bring it for you, even stabilize it for you and help you hook a lot of the stuff up. And then you don't need them anymore. If you're living long term, $550 to have someone move you a home where you're paying a quarter or a third of the price of regular rent. Not to mention that I forgot that the trash and water are all paid for. It's worth it, guys. You don't need a truck. Now, last one I'm going to leave you with, a lot of people who have the same position that maybe you do, where they live in the RV, they don't have a truck to get it out of there, but they're actually wanting to move. A lot of people I've seen save their money this way, and they're able to buy a house, or they're able to save and retire, move out of the country, or out of the state, relocate and everything. They just want to leave it there. They'll give you a really good deal. You could find something that's already in place. Go check those out too. Go to the RV places and call them up. Find out if there's any flyers or anybody out there. Put the word in that you're looking to buy something. Do as much as possible and to get yourself into the door to possibly already buy something that's already built and set in place. So guys, I really hope that this series has helped you guys out. It's the best way that I can see the last line of the end of the pipe before you go homeless or go sleeping in your van and stuff like that. Unless you want to do that, that's cool. But if you don't want to, you want to have a stationary place. Believe me, it's totally doable. And I know there's so many things that I didn't really get to explain in here, but this show's gone on long enough and I have to stop. But guys, I really hope it helped you out. If it did, like, subscribe, review this show, help me get this thing off the ground. Let me know if you're interested in keeping the show alive and going. You can message me at Resilientlpodcast@gmail.com. Everything's in the description, so you can check out links and stuff like that for there. So guys, as I always say, go out there and have yourself a near life experience. Don't lose your muchness, carry on the fire, and human up, my friends.